Last year, I decided to set the goal for myself to run the longest I had ever run, and I did it in a faster time than I ever thought was possible, but I injured myself. And I learned some valuable lessons along the way. In July of last year, I set a goal for myself. I wanted to run the farthest distance I had ever run before our baby came. Now, her due date was at the start of November, which gave me right around 3 months to train. My first double-digit run in 2023 was on August 3rd. From there, I went up to a half marathon on September 2nd, 18 miles on September 23rd, and finally 27 miles on October 7th. It was when I hit mile 24 on the long run that I knew I had made a mistake. Now, 26.2 miles, a full marathon, was the longest I had ever run before, and I had done that the year prior back in 2022. For that marathon though, I had done a ton more training and spent a much longer ramp-up period that was much more measured out as I prepared to run that. And so on mile 24 of this long run, as I prepared for that final 3-mile stretch to try to hit my distance PR, I felt a burning pain in my right hip. That's when I knew I had overdone it. And I was right. In fact, it was probably the worst injury I've ever sustained over the course of my running career. I've had shin splints before and foot pain, but that usually goes away with a little bit of rest or maybe a new pair of shoes. This, though, was a daily pain with any sort of strain that I tried to do. And it lasted for over a month. In fact, I couldn't even go on a run without any pain until probably about 2 months after that injury. And that experience taught me a few valuable lessons about myself and about slowing down.
Breakfast before the run, going donut and almond butter bars from Trader Joe's. So.
One mile in, feeling good so far.
This experience served as a reminder that it's not about the end goal, it's about the journey. Of course I know this, and of course I try to enjoy the journey as much as I can. But this experience reminded me that something like setting a distance personal record is completely arbitrary. And looking back, I would much rather have been able to just run consistently over that next month instead of having to sit on the sidelines because I tried to hit that arbitrary goal. It was a reminder that sometimes rigid goals can lead us astray. I'm not sure why I felt like I had something to prove before the birth of our daughter or why I wanted to run a distance personal record, but it definitely was a misguided goal. And if my goal was just to stay in shape and exercise more, maybe even hit more miles over the course of a month than I had before, I would be in much better shape and I would not have injured myself. So when we're setting goals, we need flexibility to change them. We need to not let ego get in the way and say that we have to achieve the thing we set out to do. What's much more meaningful than achieving some rigid goal you set a long time ago is learning from the process and changing and growing to reflect your new values and beliefs. So goals should be about the process, not the end result. It should be about the things we can control and the things we can do, the day-to-day rather than a one-time thing. And that'll help us orient ourselves to be more flexible and to focus on kind of the day-to-day actions that will get us the result that we hope for, instead of being completely focused on a single rigid goal. If you want to be a writer, for example, you might think you should set the goal of writing a book by the end of the year, but that goal might take you into an unexpected rigid place because you might actually find that you love writing short stories or that you love writing screenplays. Instead, making a goal of writing a certain number of words every day or just putting pen to paper every day is much more manageable, it's much more flexible, and it helps you get the result that you actually want, being a writer, not necessarily some arbitrary goal that might change. Number 2 is something we've all heard, but it bears repeating, and that's that patience is a virtue. I mean that seriously, and it's something we hear growing up when we ask for new toys or we put gifts on our list for Santa and hope that they arrive. It's something we tell ourselves when we're on the job hunt and not hearing back from companies for months, but it's not frequently something that we actually take to heart, let alone live on a day-to-day basis. Especially in the world of instant gratification, it's really difficult to learn this lesson. Back when I was hunting for my first job out of college, I spent months applying. It felt like I was just shooting applications out into the dark, writing cover letters over and over, talking about my skills and never getting a response back. I felt lucky to get an interview, but those never really ended up anywhere. And so about 3 months in, I was sitting there frustrated, pretty much out of options, and I almost took a job selling windshield wipers. Now, there's nothing wrong with that job, but it's not what my degree was in. It's not the career I wanted to pursue, but I held out on that offer for just 1 week. And then I got a phone call from a company I had interviewed with a month before giving me a job offer. It was much more aligned with my interests, my skills, and the lifestyle that I wanted. And even though it wasn't the perfect job, it was such a better result. So if I had settled, if I had gotten impatient, who knows what my life would have looked like now. But because I waited, because I was patient for that 1 more week, things were set up so much more successfully. The hardest part is that uncertainty. It's the waiting, it's the not knowing. But if your process is good, if you've taken the right steps to get towards the goal you want, then you just have to be patient and wait for it all to work out. The third thing I learned after injuring myself running 27 miles is that you don't have anything to prove. On some level, I guess I thought I did because there was no other reason for me to try to push myself that hard, at least in kind of that vanity metric of running my longest distance that I've ever run, except ego. Ego ultimately is a distraction. It gets in the way of real meaningful results. It's the thing that focuses on the vanity metric instead of what actually matters. You are already enough. Your best is good enough. Ego doesn't need to tell you to push yourself to a specific vanity metric. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, take care of yourself. Listen to your body and what you actually need, not what your ego tells you need, not what the pressures from social media or from people in your life tell you that you need. Listen to what you actually need. If you need to dial back your training plan or give up on a goal that you set for yourself because your body's telling you not to do it, that is too far, maybe listen to yourself. Instead of thinking that you can tough it out or that you should just push through, listen to what your body actually needs. And ultimately, if nothing else, giving up on a goal is not a failure. You come first. So if you have to give up on a goal because you physically can't do it, because it's not aligned with who you are anymore, or because it's going to cause you some sort of injury, whether or not that's physical, that's okay. And it's not a failure because you've learned something about yourself. You've learned where your limits are. You've learned what you actually value and what you actually want to do. And that is infinitely more meaningful than hitting some metric. Now, I love running. I always have. It's been one of my favorite sports. It's a way to clear my head. It's kind of like meditation, but doing it actively for me. But this time, I let ego get in the way, and it stopped me from being able to do the thing I love for over a month. This experience, in fact, caused me to rethink a lot of the goals that I set for myself and make sure that they're process-oriented instead of focusing on some arbitrary results. So if you take one thing away from this, make sure to listen to your body, love yourself well, take care of yourself, because ultimately that is what is most important. Thanks for watching.